What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and nice, comfortable 4-0 win over Colorado. What? Oh, it's still 3-0? Oh, the ref still hasn't found his lost mind yet? Okay. Comfortable 3-0 win over Colorado. So, on the topic of the referees, I will say, first time all season, I've actually been happy with the referee for at least a half. First half, honestly, was really well done. I thought the yellow cards that were given were deserved. I was more frustrated with, what's his name, Castillo, I think. He was being kind of a punk, which unfortunately Tito kind of let himself get drawn into the moment and whacked out at him, and it was a deserved yellow. He got a deserved yellow for his challenging on Miguel. So overall, I mean, it was really a well-called first half. But then, halftime breaks, they come back. I see Castillo talking to the referee at halftime. I'm just like, what's that? And the next thing I know, it's like everything just sort of fell apart from there, and things just terrible call after terrible call. Gonzalez Perez, I mean, should have had a goal, but apparently, I don't know. The ref's magic number is 3. Maybe he felt bad for Tim Howard because of the terrible terrible hands that he had for a second. I don't know what was possibly going through his mind to say, oh yeah, that was a foul. But somehow he found a foul in all of that and took away our 4th goal. There were some really just, it felt like there were some challenges from them that should have been yellows that were not. The one where Barco was free and the guy just went and whacked his back foot after he was gone. How is that not a yellow? There was a yellow that was given, I think, that I didn't think was deserved. I feel like. No. I don't think so, actually. I think it was just, I thought there was a deserved yellow for them that wasn't given. And then, of course, I mean, the challenge at the end of the game on Martinez. How is that only a yellow? I'm sorry. How is that only a yellow? When you, first of all, any time that the ball gets away from a player and they lunge in like that, every single time I've seen that happen, it's always a red. And especially whenever their foot goes up and catches them high, it's definitely a red. I've always seen that given a red. That one, though, his foot wasn't as high as it normally is whenever they lunge in. It's still a straight leg, studs up challenge on his ankle, and you give him a yellow. And the thing is, when he took away our goal, VAR was sitting there, up the butt. But then for this one, they're like, hey, check that again, because that was more than what you saw. I don't know what you saw, but there was something else there. He's like, all right, fine, I'll check it. Nah, it's just a yellow. It's just a yellow. Look, Colorado's paying me way too much for me to send off one of their players right now. It's just a yellow. Let's just finish the game. Okay, they probably didn't pay him off, but there's something that happened at halftime, because it went from being a 50-50 called game, couple missed challenges here or there, something goofy like it goes off of one person and they send it the other way type of thing, but it was nothing like major. And then you take away a goal wrongfully, you don't card somebody when they definitely deserve it, you don't send somebody off when they definitely deserve it, and it's all going against us again. I'm just like, what happened at halftime? Did Tata go and spit in your Cheerios or something at halftime? And you're just like, oh, I can't believe he did that. I'm going to start just making bad calls against. That's what it feels like half the time. It feels like we did something to piss off these referees, and we just get the short end of the stick every single time. I don't know, but it was freaking bizarre. I mean, to see some of the stuff that happened, to watch it again on replay, just how? I really don't understand. But anyway, gonna move on from that. Let's talk about us, because frankly, it was so nice to see the return of the 3-4-3. And if this is not the perfect game to illustrate why this system works, I don't know what is. Because the thing is, beyond just the fact that it helps certain players by giving them more time or more space, or even just putting them in a position that they need to be in, it gives the team the ability to sort of shift around and allows us to release our free-flowing players, to release our creative players. So that way they now have more time and space to do what they do best. And yet for some reason we haven't played this system in a long time. And the only reason we've been doing as well as we have is because, I mean, obviously Joseph's been on a bit of a hot streak. But the last game, he wasn't involved as much, and then we lose. And then today, he wasn't involved as much, but because we went to the 3-4-3, we dominated the game. They hardly had a chance. We created chance after chance after chance. They didn't hardly create anything until the end of the game when we started looking tired. And yet, for some reason, we don't stick with this formation. I really don't understand at all why we don't, because it's mind-boggling to me to see how we play in the 4-2-3-1 or whatever setup that you want to call it. The way we play in that formation, it feels like we're so open on the counterattack. It feels like anytime we give up the ball, it's going to be a chance at the other end. Whether it's, we're deflecting it out for a corner, whether it's a block, whether it's a save, you feel like it's going to be a chance at the other end. In the 3-4-3, we give up the ball, it hardly ever gets into our box. And if it does, it always has to come back because we've done well enough to shut off, passing lanes to make sure they don't have any other options to play to. It just looks so much better and so much more comfortable. And on top of that, going forward, we look like we're creating so many options. Because it's not, oh, you're playing left mid and you're playing right mid and you're playing center mid. It's, you've got the two in the midfield in Eric and Darlington, which they can rotate as much as they want to. You've got Chris on the left, Julian on the right, which I'll talk about Chris in a second, but Julian, that's where he needs to be. And then you've got Tito and Miguel just sort of making runs in behind Joseph, who is just the target man. And that's so hard to defend. When you've got Miguel making runs across the field because he's not a left attacking mid, he's not a center attacking mid, he's just an attacking mid. It doesn't matter where he pops up. He's going to be on the ball. That's difficult to defend. When he has as much time and space to roam as you give him in this formation, it's difficult to defend against him, and he scores 2 goals because of it. So, I don't know. It's strange to me that for some reason they don't see the benefit of this formation. But with that being said, let's talk about some of the players, because there are a couple that I do think not necessarily don't benefit from this formation, but didn't really benefit today because of the positions they had to play. So first of all, Brad Goal obviously did what he does well, made some good saves, very commanding back there, coming out quickly, very intelligently and receiving the ball. He's a smart goalkeeper, and I love having somebody with his experience back there. The 3 in the back, first of all, I'm going to start off with Michael. This formation suits him best because he can now be the anchor. He can be the sweeper that drops back, gets to see the whole field, and it helps him because he's such a smart defender that he can see what's going on and read it and make a quick decision to cut it off. And it allows for us to make a mistake in defense without it costing us. Whereas if you just got the 2 back there, one of them makes a mistake, well, now we're in trouble. So this formation benefits him because it lets him do what he does best, which is be a good defender. Perez, it allows him to be a bit more creative and a bit more aggressive because if he makes a mistake, he has that help behind him, which is great. For Jeff, he's not one of the back 3. Unfortunately, with injuries being what they are, with a couple players coming back from injury, I think he just sort of threw him in the back 3 because he knew he could be a defender if we need him to be. But in all honesty, you can tell that's not his best position. That's not the position he feels comfortable with. Because especially in the first half, he was getting kind of eaten alive by that number 28. So, not a great game for him, but I know that's because that's not his most comfortable position. He's more comfortable being in the middle of the field where he can just knock people over and body people off the ball and just pretty much cut off anything. But for what he, knowing that he's not a defender, knowing that that's not his comfortable position, I thought he played well. But obviously from Parkhurst and Perez, both of them they look more comfortable in a back three. They look more capable in a back three. Chris, like I said, talk about him now on the left side. Not necessarily bad, but he doesn't look like that's his most effective position because he doesn't really have the legs and he doesn't have the stamina to get up and down the line as a wing back. As a fullback, he can do it okay, but that's only because he's more making overlapping runs instead of being our wide player. As a wing back, you have to provide the width. You're not making overlapping runs. You're making runs down the line because that's where we need you to be. You're providing the width for us. So I don't feel like that's his most natural position. I feel like he'd be better off putting him in the left center back, which we've seen previously. I think he's much more comfortable there. But unfortunately, with Garza out and with Ambrose out, I think Ambrose is out. He might not be. But with both of them not really available, Chris is our best option right there. So I hate it for him, but honestly, that's what we're going to need him to be for the time being, if we're sticking with his formation, of course. For Julian, though, I mean, how involved has he been in the past few games? If I'm being honest, not really. I can't think of a lot of moments where I'm just like, yes, that's the Julian Gressel that I want to see. Ever since we've gone back to the 4-2-3-1. And it shows. It really shows. You put him out there at the right wing back position. You let him be the wide player. You let him have the space out wide to get a touch, to get a cross in. How many assists did he have today? Like 2? Yeah. We scored 3. He assisted 2 of them. Instantly, the effect is just so obvious to me. Because honestly, you put him as a right wing with somebody making an overlapping run around him, or you put him at right back where now he has to be a lot more defensive, he's just not as effective. He's a very average player. But when you put him at right wing back, it's exactly where he needs to be. It is exactly the position that he was born to play. And yet we keep switching out of this formation. I'm just like, why? Whenever it makes one of your average players into a great player. I just don't understand that. Michael Parkhurst becomes the defender that every team wants. Julian Gressel becomes the wingback every team wants. Perez is able to be the crazy defender without having to worry about what's behind him. So all of that, just the back 5 alone, which it's technically more of a back 3 with the 2 getting up and down, that alone is just so much more comfortable. And then you get into more of the technical midfield. You've got today Eric and Darlington. I think it's probably going to be Darlington and Jeff whenever Darlington's back to 100%. I think today was just a chance for him to run out his legs and sort of get back to that match fitness, which he's probably been doing some stuff off the field, which is fine. But today was sort of you're back in after being out for so long. So give him about I think it gave him like a 75-minute run out, 70-minute run out, something like that. But honestly, having his speed back in there was wonderful. The quick turns, the quick outlets, finding the balls out wide, he just does it so well. And Eric, while he's not as effective as I think Darlington is, I do see the benefit of having him in there. He's gritty. He likes to get stuck in on a challenge. Kind of what Carlos Carmona brought us last year, except maybe a little bit better with his passing even than Carlos is. So, I don't know. He's been somewhat effective, but I think our most effective midfield pairing is Jeff and Darlington, if I'm being honest. And that's just because you have Jeff in there as the bruiser, the one that's going to knock people over, and you have Darlington in there as your playmaker, the one that's going to get on the ball, find passes quickly, and set up our counterattacking play. Then you've got your front 3, which this is where things really start to shine in this formation, because like I said, Miguel is able to be just a roaming player, a player that is able to go anywhere on the field. He can drop back in the middle if you want. He can cut out left. He can cut out right. He can get in behind if he needs to. It really is almost like having 3 just attackers. Not necessarily midfielders, not a left mid, not a right mid, not an attacking mid. Just 3 attackers. If Joseph drops back in, well, now Tito is most likely your furthest one forward. If Tito and Miguel drop in, Joseph's the target man, then it gets played up to him. They're both making runs off of him. just that three, it looks so good when they're in full motion. When you add that extra attacker, when you go with the three with one up top, Joseph and then Miguel and then Barco and then Tito, however you set them up, it's like they feel like they can't really run into the other's territory or else, it's too many players. It's too crowded. Now you're drawing defenders in. With the three, it's like they don't know who to mark because it provides just enough balance in the attack and also when you're dropping back in. One of them, which most of the time is Miguel because he typically will work back, he'll generally drop in, which then allows Tito to be more further forward, which then whenever we clear it out, he can run onto it with the speed. And Joseph's up there. He's always just knocking defenders around, putting challenges in. It just looks so good. And the three of them today, really took it to them, really caused Colorado's defense a lot of issues. It was so difficult for them to defend it because there's not much you can do there. There's not a whole lot you can do to shut them off. Honestly, whenever we go with that front three, the only way a team can defend against that is if they drop their defensive mid back in and kind of keep them in the defense. And when that happens, now that provides us more control over the game. Whereas when we've got that front four, it's almost like there's so many players that they're just going to sit back. They're just going to drop in. They're going to drop 2-3 midfielders back in, and they just pack it in. With the front three, though, they feel a bit more comfortable pulling somebody out. It opens up some more space. There's more pressure on the ball because you've got 4 in the midfield instead of just the 2. I don't know. It looks so much better. It looks so much better when we do it this way. So I don't know. That's my main takeaway from today as far as the individuals are concerned. If I did have one critique for the front three, because I didn't really talk about the negative side of things, I will say that Tito at times can definitely sort of hurt us. If an attack ever really breaks down, most of the time it comes from him. And it's just bad passes or a bad decision to shoot when he shouldn't be. So that's about the only critique I have. As far as the subs that came on, Barco was the first one to come on for Tito. And he just, more energy in the attacking third, which honestly didn't really help a whole lot. I don't know. At that point, you could see that Darlington's legs were starting to go, and Eric, he's not got the speed to really control that midfield by himself. And so, of course, the natural selection is bring on Kevin. No. Don't have anything wrong with Kevin Kratz. Don't have anything against him. Honestly, I like his work ethic, but he's just not. We needed a speedy player in there, and that wasn't going to do it. That wasn't really going to provide the intensity that we needed in the midfield. So I don't know. At that point, it was kind of mainly Colorado just sort of flooding players forward, and then we'd pick it up. We'd go on the counter for a bit, and then eventually we'd lose it, and they come back at us flooding players forward. So it was just difficult to watch at that point. And then Andrew Carlton comes on for like a few minutes. Just, I don't know. Like I've said before, Tata's subs are probably the worst part about his decision making. His game overall. Great coach, great with the players, with making decisions most of the time. But the one thing that I have an issue with is his subs because he'll most of the time will make them way too late. And then on top of that, sometimes the players he brings on aren't really effective. So, I don't know. I feel like the way the game was starting to go at about the 65-minute mark, I'm thinking get somebody on for, somebody in the midfield. And so he did. And it was okay for a second. But then, like I said, Darlington's legs were going. I'm thinking get somebody on with pace in the midfield. Drop Miguel back in or put a defender in and put Jeff in the midfield where he belongs. But then he puts Kevin in. I'm just like, okay, so no, that's not what we needed. But anyway, it's little minor things like that. We still walked away with 3 points. We managed to come away with a clean sheet too, which honestly, the way the game was going for like the last 15 minutes, kind of impressive. And so we only have one more game, I think, on the road. This was the other thing. Sorry, my mind's all over the place because it's really late. When I was watching, I was thinking, we have a game this midweek, right? I'm pretty sure we play Wednesday. Why not give some of these players a rest then? You know, you're up 3-0. Why not go ahead and rest your top players well into the or not well into the second half? You know, you take Miguel off with like 5 minutes left. What's that gonna do? He still had to run an extra like 20 something minutes. He still had to wear himself out. So now he's not gonna be 100% on Wednesday. And it's decisions like that that make me think you don't really know what a sub is for. You don't really understand the purpose of subs. Subs are either to one, affect the game, or two, give a player that needs a break a chance to rest. And for Tata, it's like his subs are either you take off a player who's injured or you waste time, and so you make a late sub to waste the time. That's hard. That's most of the time what I see out of his substitutions. So anyway, with all that being said, still really good result, good performance overall. We dominated the first half easily and put them away early too. So it really let the rest of the game be so much more comfortable. Still frustrated with some of the decisions in the second half. Potentially leg-breaking challenge on Martinez that goes unpunished, you know, aside from a yellow card. That type of stuff makes me think, what's to stop the next player from going in like that then? You know, they see that, they see he only gets a yellow, they see the ref go to the VAR and still say it's only a yellow. Well, then VAR is useless. Because the VAR said, hey, look, you made a mistake. And the ref said, I didn't make a mistake, I'm perfect. And the guy gets away with a leg-breaking challenge. So what's the point of VAR then? The referee still has the final say. If he can still look at that and decide, hey, I didn't make a mistake, then what's the point? So anyway, with all that being said though, that's about all I can think of from this game. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this game? Let me know what we can talk about and discuss. All that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Atlanta United reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next game. Peace out.